My name's Angelo, and welcome to We Want Picks. This is the only channel dedicated to UFC picks and DraftKings lineups run by professional fighters and MMA insiders. Every week, I join Nick Newell, professional fighter, professional model, and ESPN Top 10 guest, along with Dan Kramer, UFC fighter, Bellator fighter, Ultimate Fighter alumni, and Jacob Lyons, a skinny kid from Indiana. And we break down every single fight, the betting odds, the DraftKings picks, and we set you up for success. Next up at UFC 259, we have the main event of the undercard. We have former champion Dominick Cruz versus the always exciting Casey Kenney. Another fight with a million question marks in it, similar to the Benavidez one that we broke down earlier. We have a former world champion who hasn't won a fight. I wrote it down. He technically hasn't won a fight since 2016, but that's because he's coming off a couple losses and he has wild gaps in between his fights because of all his injuries. But Dominick Cruz is still one of the best to ever do it. So Dan, I'll go to you first. Do you think he still has that fire? Do you think he should be an underdog? What do you think happens here?
Yeah, no, this is an interesting fight. It's the accomplished vet versus the up-and-coming prospect. But let's start with Casey Kenney. So he's won 9 out of his last 10. His only loss was to Merab Dvalishvili, however you say that. Beachvili, okay. Who was tough as hell. He's very good. He's well-rounded. He stood in the pocket and traded with Nathaniel Wood. Hard punches, kicks. I mean, the pace they had in that first round was insane. Casey definitely slowed down a lot in the second round. But, I mean, it's understood the way they fought that first round. I think he's more of I don't want to call it predictable, but more traditional fighter in the way he does things. Dominick Cruz, though, on the other hand, he's one of the best to do it. His 2 most recent losses were to arguably the pound-for-pound best in Henry Cejudo and one of the most athletic strikers in the sport, Cody Garbrandt. So I just think Dominick Cruz's style is too frustrating. It's too tough to deal with. I think Casey Kenney's going to have a problem with that, trying to find him, trying to figure out where those weird punches are coming from. And I think Cruz just has too much knowledge, too much experience, and also has one of the strongest mindsets in the sport. I mean, the guy's come back after multiple extended layoffs, which is really, really hard to do, and gone in and fought title fights, fought top contenders, and competed very closely or won a lot of them. So I think between his experience, his trickiness as a fighter, I think he's going to pick apart Kenney and kind of show there are levels to this. He's still only 35 years old, so he's not that old. So I think at plus odds for Dominick Cruz to be plus odds in this fight, I think is crazy. I took a bet on him early on when he was around plus 140, I think. So I'm taking Dominick Cruz. I've got him in my lineup. I did bet on him at around plus 140. Those odds were pulled. I'm surprised he's still up at plus 125. I thought this would come down to a pick 'em. But yeah, I like Cruz in this fight.
So Dan, Nick, what are your thoughts here? DraftKings has him at the exact same price point. So did you touch either one of them? Who do you think wins?
Yeah, I just don't really know. I mean, I think the difference maker in this fight, if Cruz were to win, would be actually his wrestling. When you fight someone like Merab Dvalishvili and he can take you down, Merab is a fantastic wrestler, but Dominick Cruz gets thought of more as a striker, but his takedown game is very good. His knee taps are good, and he mixes it up really well. With that said, the game plan of sitting and waiting for him to spring forward has kind of worked well against him. I mean, maybe Casey Kenney doesn't hit as hard as either Garbrandt or Cejudo, who both have bricks in their hands, but he is a very good technical boxer, good in the pocket, and can wrestle. I think Casey Kenney's gonna win. I just think that he might get out wrestled, so I'm not putting him in my lineup.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I think I think Dominick Cruz probably has some of the highest fight IQ in the UFC right now, or at least one of those guys with just such a high level. He can see what's going on. He can feel what's going on. He's setting things up 3 or 4 steps in advance. I think his fight IQ gets him through this. On top of, Dan, you mentioned he's very tricky, and he is very tricky. He doesn't stop moving. He bounces around. And Nick, you mentioned people have beaten him by waiting for him to bounce around and not trying to cut him off or chase him. So it will be interesting. I think his fight IQ will be the difference here. But Jacob, what are your thoughts? And did you draft either one of them?
Yeah, I'll just piggyback off what you're saying. Fight IQ off the charts. You just have to listen to him call fights to realize, this guy knows exactly what's going on at every single moment in every fight. And he was my commentator for a long time. And then, but I got to stick with the red beard. I grew the beard out. Paul Felder is definitely my favorite now, but Cruz is fantastic. And I think you nailed it with the fight IQ. I'm going to take it a step further. I think a lot of vets get in trouble when they don't realize that they're aging. They think they have the same speed. They think they have the same power. They think they have the same chin. I think Dominick Cruz is self-aware enough to realize, hey, I think I'm slowing down a little bit, So all his herky-jerky stuff, I think he's going to find a way to kind of reel that in. Nick mentioned he could go back to the wrestling to get the job done, but he's going to do whatever he knows that he can do to win this fight. I just think he's in and out. He has enough quickness still to just kind of outpoint Kenney in and out, and steal those rounds and win this fight. So I'm with you guys. I think Dominick Cruz fight IQ gets it done.
Yeah, that's a good point, Jacob. He is an intelligent fighter. As equally as skilled as he is intelligent. And in fighting, it's like you said, when you're getting older and certain things aren't as good or as quick as they used to be, don't keep doing it that way. Switch it up if you need to. So, yeah, that's a good point. I think he is smart enough to realize his strengths and weaknesses at this point. And we were talking about him like he's an old man. He's only 35.
Man.
So.
A lot of miles on those tires, though.
Yeah, it's true. But there's also a lot of time off. He had a couple year layoff. So, but yeah, I don't know. I think he's a very, very smart fighter.
Well, it's going to be a ton of fun, and it's the main event of the undercard. So that's how stacked the main card is, that this is on the undercard. So it's going to be a ton of fun. Another fight that I'm just going to be glued to the TV. Before you go, check out the description below. In there, we have links to our Facebook, our Twitter, our Instagram, and more importantly, to our DraftKings League. Check out the league, join the league, participate in the contests, and as we get going and as you start winning, we're going to start handing out gift cards and participating and doing things like that. So check those out. Every week, there are drops on every fight card. So make sure you check out this channel and our social media on Saturday before the fights start, so that you have our most updated lineups and picks.